so welcome to Gemini, the month of communication. So Gemini is the first air sign of the whole zodiac of the year. So that means that it is the most primitive of all the air types, which means Geminis just want to talk. That's what it's about. It's about getting chatty, and it's about asking questions because they are the child, the twins of the zodiac. So they want to know what's going on. They want to know everything. They don't even know why they want to know. That's not the point for a Gemini. They just want to make any statement that has a question mark at the end. So if you know any Geminis, or if you have a Gemini sun or a Gemini moon or a Gemini rising, perhaps, yeah, we do have one moon in the house, and I'm a Gemini. Hello, anyone who knows me knows that I never stop asking questions. So air is all about cerebral activity, analysis, thinking, mulling things over in the mind. Very mentally active month. So we want to, of course, balance that out, and the balance of Gemini is Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is the one that doesn't ask questions because they already know everything. Is anyone who knows the Sagittarius? Any heavy Sages in their charts? You know, this Sag energy is what Gemini needs, actually, because Gemini thinks they don't know anything, so they have to ask. They're looking outside for answers. Sagittarius, at the other end of the spectrum, has all the answers inside, so doesn't need to ask. So hence they need to work with each other to balance each other out. So I can still hear some noise. Someone's not on mute. We'll just go. It's all good. Okay. So before we begin today, celebration. Sacred Business turns 4 this month. And so I wanted to ask you all, do you know when your business birthday is? Because there's a lot of different ways to calculate your birthday. Now, some people, and there's no rules around this, but you'll just choose something that feels right to you. But it's good to know what the different versions of birthdays are in business. So one way is to classify the birthdays when the business became a legal entity. So when you created a company, or, you know, whatever the legal entity is for your business, you might want to date it by that date. You might also want to base it on when you first got your first paying client. So this can work for some. So it depends whether, you know, if you're really investing full time in your work. So this is the other thing to take in mind. When you're working full time in your business is the other way to classify when your business was born. Because if you're working part-time or casually, you might get your first paying client and then not have one for 6 months. So that's something else to take into account. I'm also telling you this because it may sometimes be relevant for you to know this for your clients or customers, you know, when their businesses were born, because it helps you to get an insight into where their business is at, what stage of growth their business is in out of the 4 stages: seed, roots, leaves, and fruit. We'll talk about that today. So it can be very useful just to know the age of your client, sometimes to know the age of the business they're working in. The other thing is when the brand was launched. So, you know, when it actually your business saw the light of day. So its head popped out, really? So that's what mine is based on. So Sacred Business saw the light of day around this time 4 years ago. So the logo was released, the website was launched. I had already had paying clients by that point, but not under the banner of Sacred Business. So yeah, there's a few different ways here. Other people term it by when they made some kind of major investment in the business, some kind of capital investment, when they got their first business coach, or when they bought a premises, or, you know, when they set up shop, whatever it is. So keep this in mind as we're going through today, because we are going to be referring to the 4 stages of growth, and you need to have a relationship with your business where you know what stage it's at, what stage of growth it's at, so you can feed it the nutrients it needs that's appropriate for that stage. So I will also mention, just regarding the birthday of a business, that a business can be conceived years before it's born. So just as, you know, when a baby comes into this world, that soul is flying around in the ethers for years prior to when it's actually born, often years prior. So that can be confusing for some people because they might be really connected to the business, but it hasn't actually seen the light of day. It hasn't gone through full gestation yet. So you might have known about your business coming through far in advance before it actually popped out. Okay, sorry, I'm just checking the comments now. Priscilla, I feel like mine was conceived when we started with the coaching back in August 2015, the Soul Blueprint. Yes, so that's an interesting point, because not only did you make an investment in the program to create and support your business, but the business itself was based on the conception of a new business. So, and that's really what that program was about. The Soul Blueprint was midwifing people through the process of bringing their business into being. So yes, when I first started investing in me, good point, Priscilla. So when you make the decision where you're putting money on the line to go, yes, I'm supporting my business in this new way, I'm committing to this, I'm making some kind of commitment. Hello, when a baby pops out, it's an instant commitment. So you're going to know when you're committed. And that was what it was for me when the website came out. It's like, wow, I've put so much into this. It's gone through a full gestation of nearly 2 years. So here it is. Now I'm committed. Now it's out there. I'm publicly accountable for this. So the public accountability is key too. And this applies each time you go through the full cycle. So your business is born the first time round, but then when you come around the full cycle to the fruit falls from the tree, the seed then regerminates as a new seed. That's again a new process, a new commitment that you make to your business. So all of these signposts or indicators, if you like, of a business being born also apply when you reach the full cycle and start that birth cycle again. Because as you know, we keep going round and round, birth, life, death, rebirth, and it keeps on going. Keep reinventing your business with each full cycle. Leonie, I think of it as the date I opened full time. My business is an Aquarius. Ooh, cool. I love that. So yeah, full-time commitment, man. Like, that's it. Straight up. So if there's another way that you measure the date of birth of your business, please let us know, because they're the ones I'm familiar with. And there's probably many more. All right, so just to revisit, cycles within cycles. We're talking about seasons as well. So Aries, Taurus, Gemini represent autumn in Southern Hemisphere, spring in the Northern Hemisphere. Now, I want to make the point as well, some people live in locations where there are not 4 seasons, autumn, spring, winter, and summer. They actually operate by a different cycle of seasons. Some places have 6 seasons in the year, some have 2 seasons, just wet and dry, but usually within those there's micro seasons. It doesn't matter. It's all about the timing. So because we're in the first quarter of this natural year, then whatever the season is for where you're located is what this pertains to. So don't get too hooked up on the 4 seasons if that's not appropriate for where you live. Now, what does this mean? Okay, so this is a cycle within a cycle. So cycles overlay on top of one another, which means that the zodiac is up there in the sky, but on Earth we have the seasons. So we put one on top of the other, and that's all this is. So even though we're in Gemini, depending on where you live, it will have a different flavor to the actions that you take. So in the Southern Hemisphere, it's a paring back because we're in autumn, but in Northern Hemisphere, it's spring, so it's starting to flourish. Things are really germinating. So just think of it as a flavor of ice cream. There's lots of different flavors, and it all depends on where you live, what flavor of Gemini you're working within. Just to keep in the back of your mind. Now, the creator types as well, of course, pertain to the seasons. So in autumn, the creator types are tree, ocean, and lake. And in spring, whirlwind, fire, and lava. So what this means is different creator types, as in people, as in bodies, are active at certain times of the year, most active at certain times of the year. So for example, if you are a whirlwind, you are turned on in spring, and you'll feel it in your body. You'll feel that kind of aliveness. Whereas other times of the year, if you're a whirlwind, it starts to die off. You go a little bit dormant with your energy. So just get a sense of, if you are one of these types, if you know that you, or you resonate with one of these types, even if you haven't been officially typed yet, get a sense for where you sit. Because if you are activated at this time of the year based on where you live, then use that. This is the time for you to shine. This is the time for you to really invest in your work, for you to be seen in the marketplace, because you are really switched on. Your creative power is at a high. So if you've had your creator constitution done, you will know in more detail which seasons or which types pertain to you within each season. So we all have certain types that are most resonant in our bodies at 4 times or the 4 quarters of the year. So if you're not sure what that means, or you're curious, you can ask me after this call, because that's a big topic. All right, let's get cracking. So I want to talk about the whirlwind today because it is the most pertinent, or in alignment with Gemini. The Gemini energy is very aligned with the manifestor. So the creative power of the whirlwind is rapid visualization and creation through decisive action. Now, if you visualize what a whirlwind is, how it operates, it is circular in motion. It usually darts all over the place, and it is fast. Can't keep up with a whirlwind if you try. If you try running after one, it's actually quite funny to watch. But if you get a sense of how this energy works, you're in the Gemini energy, very much so, because this fast cerebral activity, whirlwind being an air type, is what Gemini is all about. And when Gemini is focused, so decisive action, I'm deciding I'm going from A to B, they are most effective. So a whirlwind will get very busy darting in all different directions if it doesn't have a focus, if it doesn't have that B point. So magical qualities are adaptability, manifestation, and speed. Whirlwinds are the fastest type of all the 12 creators. So when they have their eye on the prize, they will manifest and whip up a storm faster than anyone else can. So this is what we're wanting to do in Gemini. We're wanting to create buzz. We're whipping up a storm. We're creating a frenzy. It's that fast cerebral activity that we're wanting to create this month. In balance, of course. Okay, so get your pens ready. We're going to get cracking. You want to be taking notes. These workshops are designed to throw ideas into your psyche, see if they stick, and then give you an idea to implement in your business. So I'm just planting seeds, and I'm showing you principles so that you can tune in to what is going to be most suitable for your work this month. So let's just talk about briefly. So we've talked about Gemini, what it needs to get balanced. But in terms of communication, traditional communication happens where people, and let's think in business here, we are being talked at all the time with marketing. talked at. We didn't ask to see this ad, but here it is in my face. And so this is the challenge around communication, is making sure it's a dialogue, not a monologue. So it's not a one-way street. And that is the brilliance of Gemini, is Gemini asks questions which engages the other person. So the opposite of that is the monologue. I'm talking about me. I'm not engaging the other person. I'm not actually hearing what they're saying. I'm not interested in their point of view. I'm just in my own zone. So lots of activity as well. Traditional communication, lots of words, but no message. You know, this is, you know, drives me insane actually, about traditional marketing, is that there's so much frenetic activity, ads flying everywhere, words at you all the time, but it's also superficial. Where's the meaning? And this is the beauty of the balance of Sagittarius. Sagittarius balances Gemini because they are always searching for meaning, purpose. So when there is no meaning, it is superficial and it doesn't land in people's bodies. It gets them all wound up in their heads. And that's the whirlwind activity again. A whirlwind can get all wound up into the sky and lose touch with the earth. And therefore there's no point in even having that activity. It actually creates a state of inertia. So all talk and no action is also a hallmark of the way communication is often done in the marketplace. So lots of activity, but not actually anything reaching the ground, reaching the bottom line. Or the alternative to that is that people are making purchases, but they're not actually purchases that are in their highest good. So they're purchases made from the mind alone. So what do we do about this? Well, this is where natural communication comes in, and here's what it's about. It's about engagement. What a surprise. So engagement, like you've actually got to engage people with your questions. Make it interesting for them. Put yourself in their shoes. Do they want to hear what you're saying? Is it of value to them? If not, then shut up and just listen. Or if you're not engaging and you're holding back from your community, from your tribe, then you're also at a loss. You're also not engaging. So it can go one of two ways: engaging too much about yourself or not engaging enough. And you'll know if you're one or the other. You might want to enter in the chat. Are you right now in your business someone who doesn't engage enough, or someone who's engaging perhaps too much in the wrong ways? Let us know. Let's share and learn from each other. Me personally, I am not engaging enough. I don't show up enough. I stay in my head, I stay in my own privacy, my own little world, in my silence, and I don't share enough unless it's things like this where you can't shut me up. But unless I have a platform, I tend to just not make posts because I'm so aware and sensitive to all the noise out there. So when I post something, it has to be it's very deliberate, but it does hold me back a little bit. So you might relate to that as well. I don't want to add to the noise. That can work against me sometimes. So when we're talking about natural communication, what is engagement really about? Well, it's about mobilizing people. Mobilize them into action. Don't just get them caught up in their heads, but get them to take an alternative action they wouldn't have taken otherwise had they not heard from you. So what this does, engagement, that whirlwind once again, is this natural momentum. So once a whirlwind takes off, and you'll see, you might notice some whirlwinds in your life. If you haven't connected with a whirlwind yet, we do have some in this group. In fact, I'm interviewing one soon. Have a look in the directory, find the whirlwinds in the group. They do this beautifully. They just slowly start to gain momentum, and all of a sudden they whip up a storm around their creations. And you're like, how did that happen? Where did that come from? Oh my God, they've got all this engagement. So this natural momentum carries their message. So when there's decisiveness and there's a clear purpose to that communication, away it goes. So we're really talking community engagement here is the big picture, because yes, we can relate all of this to one-to-one communication, but really one-to-many is where it's at now. Age of Aquarius, it's all about tribal communication. You communicate to your tribe, and then they talk amongst one another, rather than you having to go one-to-one, 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 one-to-one. And if you want to know more about why that's important, there's actually a book called The Last Safe Investment. If you are interested in what to invest in this current economy and in the future economy, read that book. Guess what? It's not money. It's tribe. Jillian. Oh, hang on. Can I hear you? Oh no, you've gone all chipmunk again. Oh dear, you might have to log off and come back or something. I'm going to read the comments while you're doing that. Coolies. Okay, yes, until the last few days I have been hiding. Good. So know when you're hiding. Asaya, not enough, so much to say, where to start, yes. Priscilla, I've just started to engage with Instagram, so curious that it's really kicking off now in Gemini. Yeah, Melissa, you have been more visible in the last 4 to 5 days. Have I really? You've noticed that? Yes, that is my intention for this month, to get down with Gemini. Cherie, I left my meetup group after giving too much to engage. Yes, more personally, to return to the tribe. Yes, if you've broken your limb, Cherie, it means that perhaps less reaching out and more hand on the heart for you, perhaps. Yeah. Okay, Jill, are you unchipmunked yet?
I think so.
Yes, you are. Good. Take it away.
It's curious on a global level. Facebook is now actually more focused on groups and the information that's coming from groups. So it's already happening at a global level.
Yep. Facebook's onto it, and all the platforms know that this is all a collective culture now. It's all about groups, tribe, connecting people in different groups. You know, you can be a member of various groups at once, but be members of ones that you feel really connected to. They're so enriching. And it might be on the ground or it might be online. Doesn't matter. Cool. Thanks, Jill, for mentioning that. Yes, there is a big push towards supporting Facebook groups rather than business pages, for example, and also even timelines. You know, they're still very linear, one-to-one based, but groups, on the other hand, the potential is exponential. Priscilla.
Yeah, I just did a workshop recently, a seminar on Facebook and how they're changing everything. And if you have a really powerful promotion in your advertising, they'll actually limit your organic reach. But if you talk about something that is engaging people and not promoting yourself, then your organic reach is going to be more natural. And they've actually talked about that's what they've done. They've shut down the whole advertising and you know, really pushing and to close down the actual promotion aspect of business, which I think is quite interesting.
Yes, and that's a good point. That's happening across the board. So people are being penalised for their salesy language, and that's also happening in terms of Gmail inbox screening and stuff like that. So if you're using any hype words, you just get automatically flicked. So you know, this is where our culture is moving. It's moving away from direct sales and more towards organic communication and tribal culture. And I use that term loosely because we are very out of touch with tribal culture, but I mean in terms of the one-to-many approach. Okay, so first question to ask yourself here is, are you sharing your truth with your tribe? Does your tribe even know who you are and what's engaging about you? Because your truth is certainly engaging. Not many people doing this. A lot of people talking from their heads, but the truth comes from the body. When you speak from your base, from your womb, whether you're a man or woman, that part of your body that is deeply connected to who you really are, not who you think you are, your communication can create a far and wide ripple effect. So that is number one of engagement, sharing your truth. How many of us hold back on our truth? I know I do. Jill?
A curious thing that I have found with the Facebook Lives that I do, if I'm super prepared, it comes from my head. If I look back at my video, you know, a day later, and I have no idea what I've said, that actually has the most reach and the most engagement, because I've just been in the moment. I haven't really, I mean, I still have guidelines, but it's just key sentences.
I've noticed that about you. But what's interesting about preparing what you speak is the preparation happens, and then the assimilation inside your body happens, and then you speak. But what often happens is people prepare and then speak, and they don't allow it to actually drop into their bodies and integrate. And so I've seen that with you, and when you speak from your body, it's amazing. But it's not because you've done no preparation, because you have. It's just that you've given yourself space to integrate. Is that true?
Yeah, it is. And I don't try to remember what I've prepared. It's there.
That's it. Let your body speak. It's the best advice I can give, but it's a tall order. I'm still learning myself. Are people excited to share your stuff? Here we go. It's all about buzz this month. Is there buzz around your brand? You know, so over time, brands get boring. They get bland. That's normal. Brands that have been around for a long time, snore, because look at how many new brands are coming out every single day. And especially the millennial market, who have, you know, massive FOMO syndrome going on. They're always looking for the new, latest, shiniest object. So what can you do to keep your object shiny? So once a year in Gemini, we really emphasize this. We're polishing our little business tree and polishing those apples so they're really, really appealing. So people naturally want to share about it. And this is also about, oh, Jill, yes.
Is this a time also to refresh your brand? So it's like making, for me, I've seen that there's a whole lot of stuff I used to do and it was very engaging and it's dropped off. Do I go back there and refresh it because it was working? And not so much polishing it, but maybe even just changing the shape of it a little bit to create more engagement.
Okay, great question. Because I know you've been in business a long time, and this particularly applies to mature businesses, is the more mature your business tree is, the more branches it has, the more leaves it has. Therefore, potentially, the more diluted the message can become. So you may be in the stage where you need to really prune your tree and go, what are one or two branches that I want to emphasize right now? Clear away everything else and create buzz around that one or maybe two branches. Easy for a new business because you're lucky having one branch. So buzz is easy, and this Gemini, it's the baby, it's the child of the zodiac. So it's fresh, it's new. So if you're more established, then you've got to give that appearance, that feel of freshness, of newness. So there is a difference, though, I will say, between buzz, so creating buzz around a message, and refreshing your brand. I would say that refreshing your brand technically comes in Leo, but now it's more about the message that you're putting out there. So you don't have to really revisit your logo and all the branding that you've created, all the marketing collateral that you've created.
Yeah.
It's more about messaging. And
that's actually perfect, because pruning a tree in winter is the best time to do it. So
yeah, cool. Good question. Yes, and the last one is, how well do you know your customers really? Really. There's a lot you can know about your customers that you don't know. So we'll be talking about that in a moment. But first, let's talk about buzz. Why would people talk about your business? Is there an incentive? Is there a reason? Give them one. So buzz is your megaphone. You have a message to share. There has to be a message that you are sharing with your buzz. Now, you could be like the Kardashians, who are extremely skilled at marketing and playing the PR card. But there's no message. There's no real deeper purpose behind what they're sharing. They're just creating drama. So, but still a great strategy that works with plenty of unconscious people who want to follow someone else's life for not really any reason other than perhaps they don't have their own. But we're not catering to that unconscious market. We're catering to conscious people who care about stuff, who really think about the world we're living in, who want to contribute something better. They don't just want to fill their airwaves with meaningless stuff. So there has to be a purpose around the buzz you're creating. So yes, fun is the other thing. So you got to make it fun. That's the buzz part. Purpose and fun together. Now, I'm going to give one example of this, a really basic example. On the ground at a market I went to in Alice Springs once, where a guy was selling fruit juices, but in order to buy the juice, you actually had to get on a bike and mix it yourself. There was a blender attached to the bike, and you had to get on the bike and cycle for 5 minutes and blend your own juice. So, but you know, how much more interesting and engaging is that than just going and buying a juice from the counter? So he engaged me in my juice that I was about to drink. It was pretty cool. So there's lots of different examples of this where people can have some kind of engagement in what they're buying. But you can also engage people when they're not buying as well. So there's lots of ways to do that. So here are some principles, and this is the time to tune into what you want to do this month. Get your ideas flowing. You might want to share them in the chat too if you have any questions or ideas as I'm going through this list. Controversy. Controversy sells. It's different. It's not boring. Geminis get bored, remember? So make it different. Make it confronting. Novelty. Well, getting on a bike to blend my juice, that's a novelty. Great gimmick. Beauty as well also can be really engaging, but you'd need to add something to that to really engage people, because people are a bit, have got beauty fatigue because they're constantly seeing selfies of plastic millennials and beautiful landscapes, and it's all just become very pedestrian, really. It's in our face all the time. So beauty doesn't have that same hold that it used to. We're saturated in it. So what can you add to that to make it interesting? Jillian, I want the unconscious market that is interested in becoming conscious. Well, that's a good point. So you want the Kardashian followers, Jill. Is that too unconscious? Is that like off the end of unconscious? Is that like asleep in the grave, holding their phone up into the sky to get some service? Like, go ahead.
I want them when they crash and burn.
Yeah, okay. So they're on the verge of becoming conscious. Yeah, cool. Great stuff. Great stuff. So you can still make fun of the Kardashians to them because they'll kind of be waking up. Mm-hmm.
Can I just make a little joke? So
Yep.
they're plant-faced in the soil, Jill.
Yes! They've done a face plant. Yep, Jillian definitely caters well to that market, the face planters. Okay, last two significant posts have been both controversy and beauty. Tell me what they were, Jill.
I had a rant with your post with a signed petition. That was fairly long and...
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, it's pretty full on. I think, but say I've seen it. I think so. Maybe not. And the other one was about Megan and her fucking dress. Excuse me.
Cool. So did you get some good engagement on those posts?
And from people who don't normally comment on my stuff.
Yeah.
That was the curious part, was it wasn't my core group of people commenting. It was actually people who never commented on anything that I've written or done, or and I shared it over the three groups, that three different Facebook profiles, so the business page, my group, and my personal page. Yeah, it was interesting to see who was commenting and who was engaged.
Great point. So people came out of the woodwork. This is a great point. There are, I think, I don't know what the stats are, but the vast majority of Facebook users are voyeurs. They don't like or comment. So there's potentially, hundreds of people out there seeing your stuff who are not even commenting or liking. You wouldn't even know they were there. They're just voyeurs. So how do you make them come out of the woodwork? Well, give them something different, just like Jillian just said. So Mel said here, my 3 values are self-care, fun, and authenticity. When you mentioned allowing your body to feel when you are sharing your message, to me that is intrinsic authenticity. Be real. Clients engage when you are being totally real. Yes, absolutely. Because there's a lack of realness in the marketplace. And that's actually one of the things I'm going to mention is transparency and honesty sells. And actually I'm going to use the example of that. One of our members, Jay Del Rey, she's had a double mastectomy, and she posted a photo of herself topless in her knickers on her Facebook page to educate people about breast cancer and surgery and all sorts of stuff. And she was on a podcast talking about that recently. That is transparency. That post went viral. She's had I think 50 plus friend requests from men all around the world. So, that kind of stuff sells. She's out there. People are like, wow, she's so brave. It's really bold. It's some stuff that you don't see every day. That's what people want. They're so fatigued with the same old crap on their feeds. And same in everyday life. Give someone something to have fun with, like a cycle juicer, think outside the box. Okay, so curiosity also sells and engages people. So asking questions and giving them some kind of mystery around what you're talking about. Don't give them all the answers. Pique their interest. Giveaways and freebies always work really well, but don't just give away stuff. Make it, combine it with something. Combine it with a powerful message or some kind of interesting aspect to it. Benevolence as well. Benevolence also sells, but you have to be pretty high up there on the scale these days. You see kids who are raising money for cancer, and they raise so much money because, you know, adults out there are going, oh my God, look at this beautiful little child who's thinking about other children and not himself. See how much that stands out in today's world? A child that doesn't think about themselves, who wants to give their stuff away to other children in need. Go down that line potentially. Humor, of course, works really well. Everyone loves a laugh. Jingles and messages that stick in your head, like, and a catchphrase, that works really well. Waiting lists and kind of exclusivity works very nicely too for certain markets, as long as you're not abusing it and you're being real about it. My colleague George Cow does this really well. He doesn't do this really well as a strategy, but he often refers to the fact that he has a wait list for coaching clients. And that in itself, just the fact that he mentions that, adds this sense of exclusivity to his brand. Oh, wow. So you have to wait to get into him. Teasers and previews. So giving a preview to what's coming, but don't give away everything. And as I mentioned before, transparency and honesty. There's so many ideas there that you can play with to create some buzz with your brand this month. Is anyone getting ideas as I'm speaking? Is this opening up your mind to what you might do differently in your marketing this month? Just doing a time check. Cool. Next. What don't you know about your customers?
Nat, can you just go back one, please?
Yes. What do you need? Are you writing down? This will all be in the action sheet, so you don't have to go crazy. Oh, you want to write it. Okay. Tactile. Going into your brain as you're writing, right? What a good student. Okay, you done? Cool. What don't you know about your customers? Lots. So this is about getting feedback. Now, this is kind of a dreaded thing for businesses because you ask for feedback and you don't get it. How many people can relate to that? So ask for feedback. What did you think about this product or service? And you get like maybe a trickle of responses out of many. So how can we change this? It's a culture. It's a culture of apathy, a lack of understanding. It's a culture of just wanting to get rather than to give first before we get. So what does that mean? Well, before we ask for something, we should offer something first. Now, I found it's really easy to get people to give me feedback if they've just finished with me as a coaching client, because I've given a lot to them and they want to give back to me. But this isn't always a scenario we're working with. So often we need to provide some kind of incentive to get feedback from people. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But most importantly, when we ask and we receive, so if someone gives us feedback, we need to pay it forward straight away and give someone else feedback. What have you given in terms of feedback when you have asked? And you should be giving way more feedback than you receive. So I make a conscious effort to, when I work with someone as their client or customer, I offer a testimonial. Would you like a testimonial? And I usually offer a video testimonial because they're top notch. If you can do a video testimonial for someone, wow, you've helped to build their brand like to no end. Video testimonials are the creme de la creme of testimonials. So this is what we're aiming for. But in the process, we don't just want testimonials, we also want information from them about how they received our service so we can do continuous improvement later in the year, not this month. This month is just the information gathering stage. So if we start to see feedback as a loop, Feedback is a loop, which means to close the loop, you must be giving feedback as well, consistently. Writing on people's comments, giving them video testimonials, putting a 5-star rating on their Facebook page. Well, there's other websites, which I'll share in a moment, that you can use for that. So when you start to see feedback as a loop, instead of grasping, asking all the time for feedback, things start to change. I receive feedback now without even asking, because I give a lot of feedback, and that's what we're aiming for. So we don't have to ask so much. But I always want more feedback. So you never really know. Sometimes I wonder, I'm getting the positive feedback mostly, but constructive feedback is like hen's teeth. That's the valuable stuff. More than testimonials is the constructive feedback. So how much constructive feedback are you giving? Since I've been doing these workshops, for example, I've received 2 constructive feedback emails from people. There's a lot more than 2 suggestions that I could be doing to improve this. But
you get feedback from me every session.
Yes, you do give me feedback every session, Jill. Thank you. You do. So if we count that, it's a lot more. But it's all from you. But Gillian is also a specialist in communication, so she knows how important feedback is. To give feedback. So think about it. When was the last time you gave constructive feedback? Not just, oh, nice job. Yeah, that was good. Give us some grit, man. So there's lots of questions you can ask. Be specific. So if you are sending out a survey, or you are deciding what kind of feedback do I really want from my tribe, here's some different types. So you can ask feedback to learn about your colleagues, as in competitors, other people in your industry that your customers have also purchased from. What do they say about them? Who did you go to before you came to me? Why did my product appeal to you more than so-and-so's product? That's a very specific question, not just, what did you think of our service? What was the best thing about our service? So you can be very strategic with your questions, depending on what your goal is. So decide from this list what's most important to solve problems. So if people have, you're actually troubleshooting a problem for them, you can say, is one of the issues, is there a particular area that I didn't spend enough time on for you? What issue of yours wasn't resolved and what was resolved? Of course, you can ask for feedback that showcases your strengths. So these are all the things like, what did you love most about our service? But that's what people often tend to ask rather than the critical questions. So when you're wanting to really improve your offerings, then you want to ask questions around that. So are you getting value for money? Do you think this is an appropriate price point for this product or service? Asking questions like that, very specific. To understand their needs, so why have they come to you? Like what's really going on for your customers that has brought them to you? There are a whole raft of other questions. I'm going to send out some examples when I send the email tomorrow with the recording and the worksheets. So it'll help you more in this domain, but really at the moment, it's to help you think about the different types of questions you could be asking. What sort of feedback does your business need most right now? Do you need to improve your marketing message? There are some businesses that need this desperately, so you can ask a whole raft of questions around that. What would you tell your friends about this product or service? That's a good one. And profiling your customers. So what age are they? What's their background? What's their average income? That kind of thing. That can also be very useful depending on where you're at in your business. So you want to ask those kind of demographic style questions. There's so many things you could know about your customers. So what's top of the pile for your business right now? And this is going to link back to your buzz strategy. So you have a buzz strategy, or you're concocting one as we're going through this today. What do you need to know about your customers in order for that to work? So you can do polls or you can do surveys. So some of the questions I've just given examples of now are usually survey questions. So they're more detailed in nature. And you would usually give these after someone has experienced your product or service. Polls, on the other hand, are much easier to for people to fill out, even if they're prospective customers. So they can just tick a box. You can run them in Facebook. And that's very low commitment, and you might get a great response rate on that. Feedback websites. So has anyone heard of Yelp? Does anyone use Yelp? Okay, so yelp.com is a feedback website where people can leave feedback about local businesses. Now, these websites are great because they're centralized. People don't have to go to your website or your Facebook page or somewhere else to get the lowdown on your business. And also there's this trust factor that people will tell the truth because it's an independent website. So if it's negative feedback, then you'll see it there. So you can send your customers and clients to this website and get them to leave their feedback there. I also recommend that it's especially appropriate for local businesses. So I don't tend to use it because I'm an online business, because you do actually have to have a fixed address. But if you do have a fixed address, I do recommend it, because if you're getting all your feedback through Facebook, you know how you can be rated through Facebook on your business page, what happens when Facebook dies? It's going to die one day. Maybe Yelp will too, but it's still an independent site that's not dependent on so many other factors for it to stay there. So what I also suggest is taking screenshots of whatever testimonials customers leave on your on any of those sites. Any external site, take screenshots of it so you have it as a record in case something happens. Real-time feedback. This is really cool for events. If you're running events or workshops, anything live with groups, you can get people to share their feedback with their networks whilst they're at the event. So if they're at a workshop, give them a hashtag to use and say, hey guys, tell us what you think about this, or share with your friends about this, or give them an incentive to do that. Sharing photos of where they are. So real-time feedback is really awesome if you're running events like that.
And checking in.
And checking in, yeah, checking in. Now, hang on, let me check some chats here. Cherie, communicating to clients, creator type will help. Video live at the actual workshop. Yeah, video live at the workshop, definitely. That's a great idea, Cherie. Jillian, haven't had good experience in the past giving feedback for some. You do better one for me on Tuesday. Yeah, you better do one. Of course I'll do one. I'll do a video testimonial for you, Jill. Cool. I tend to be the last port of call for the face planters. I use their experience with other coaches rather than reinvent the wheel, so they share what they've already experienced. Okay, that's really cool. So I'm not sure if I'm getting that right, but you gave me an idea anyway, is that when you're getting a testimonial from people, and that's another story, is getting a quality testimonial from people, you really want to be talking about their before and after experience.
Actually, it's actually not for a testimonial. When I'm doing a session with them, I actually ask what they've experienced before, and that gives me an insight into what they had before, and I don't have to create something new for them. They can use something that's already been effective, but it also gives me an insight what other people are doing.
Yeah, that's great. That's a bit of research, so indirect research or feedback about what your colleagues are doing. And also when you're doing a testimonial, when people are talking about their before experience, get them to talk about, you know, other services or products that they used that perhaps didn't work or worked differently. So you want to make your testimonials inventive. So share them in inventive ways. Don't make it boring for people once again. So there's lots of, I've been thinking about this for ages because I get bored seeing people's testimonial reels and whatever. I tend not to use them. But a couple of things that have stood out to me is with testimonials, and usually I get really long testimonials, what I do is pick out one sentence or key words in that testimonial. So it's a snapshot and it's direct, it goes straight in. Oh, okay, right, that's, I get it, rather than having to read through the whole thing. And I've seen that done really well on other websites. Also, you can, you know, share them in different ways. You know, I sometimes put testimonials at the end of my videos. So if I've even a workshop like this, I might add a testimonial at the end as a visual. And just one, not a whole reel, but just one. Because that's what sometimes all people can take in. And it's also unexpected. So be creative with how you share your testimonials. Cherie, everyone in my area is starting networking groups for their brand and getting attendees to speak live. Brilliant. Just brilliant. That's engagement plus. Meetup groups are a great way to, and I know that you've had a lot of experience with this, Cherie. Meetup groups are a great way to have engagement with your tribe on a regular basis in a casual way and get indirect feedback where you're not having to ask specifically. Okay, there's lots there to mull over. Finally, we want to talk about research. What information will help fulfill your intention? So let's just talk about that for a moment. Your intention is what? What's your intention with creating buzz? And you might want to link back to your 12 cycle intention for the whole natural year. What was that? And then when you're in tune with what stage of business growth you're in, and you can actually assess your business against the 4 stages, which area or stage requires development? Your research, the research that you do in your business now, this is the research month for the year, remember? Not that you can't do research in other months, but it is elevated. It is a focus of this month. So if you're doing research for the whole year that's going to help to grow your business, which area out of these 4 growth stages needs the most work, needs the most development? Now, I'll send this out with the email tomorrow, so you don't have to copy all this down. It's just to give you a focus of, okay, so which area here needs my attention? Because that's going to inform what research you do. So if you were around for the natural evaluation workshop back in January in Capricorn, you'll remember that there was an evaluation that I do for my business each year, and I evaluate against all of those 4 stages and the functions in each stage to see which areas I'm strongest in and which areas need development. These are my results from January. I think it was this year, maybe the year before. Pretty sure this is this year. And so you can see that I'm strong in the seed stage. Roots need a bit of development, but really leaves and fruit are where it's at for me. So I could look at those functions in each stage and go, okay, so roots, what are the aspects of roots? What are the functions in the root stage that I need to pay attention to? And of course, linking to my 12 cycle intention, which is to bring the teachings of sacred business into the body and onto the land, to root them in the body and in the land, then okay, roots, that's somewhere where I could develop this year because it aligns with my intention. So when I talk about my actions for this month, I'm going to give some examples of that, of the areas I'm researching this month. But really the point here is this is not about just research. What a horrible term, unless you're into that kind of thing. It's a bit hard for Gemini, isn't it? Doesn't sound very fun. But hey, if you make it about who do you know who can help, well, that's fun. Who do I know who knows a lot about this stuff? Oh, I know, I can talk to this person. Rather than just talk to Google. Dr. Google's great sometimes, but you know what? If you want real help in a particular area, get a specialist or someone that you know who can talk their head off on the subject. You might want to pay them, you might want to do an exchange, you might just want to have an informal chat, suss them out, and they may direct you to better information sources. The point about conducting your research this month is to be strategic about it. Know what information your business needs to grow this year. And gather that information now. Okay, any questions about that? I'm going to expand on it a little bit. Cherie, I have the research set in the bones. I planted too many seeds and the soil became mud and I fell over. Oh, starting over means solidifying. Does Gemini have a magnifying glass? I love how you talk, Cherie. It's always so visual. Yeah, that's great. So solidifying your foundations is where it's at for you, Cherie. So this is where always we link back to what stage of the growth cycle are we in? What's our 12 cycle intention? What does our business need most right now? Focusing all of our efforts and our attention, our money, everything towards that. That is strategic growth. Now, let's keep going and bring it all together. Okay, so brand buzz. What do you want to achieve from creating buzz? Giving you so many ideas, but you've got to have a purpose. Engagement method. How will you engage people with your message? Feedback. What feedback do you need from your customers and how will you get it? So again, in order to make your buzz strategy work well, what do you need to know first? This may also link in with the research. So the research and the feedback support the buzz that you're going to create around your brand. So we put it all together. Buzz plus feedback plus research, that is community engagement. So I will say at this point, these workshops are intended to be something that you layer upon each year. So this year you might do a fraction of what I've talked about today, but next year you'll do a fraction more or you'll do a different fraction. The point is that you are layering and you are growing in that circular motion of the Fibonacci, the spiral. So each year you grow, you build upon the last. So this is not about ticking every single box that I've talked about today, because you've got to choose what intuitively what your business needs most right now. Not everything your business needs, what it needs most. Focus on that. Priscilla, oh phew, the pressure is off. There's so much, Nat. Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned that because people often feel like that. So these workshops, I talk about everything because some elements might pertain most to your business right now, but another person, it's something else. But it's still under the banner of the Gemini energy and natural communication. So choose what is relevant to you. Okay, so that's it. If you have to go, you have to go. That's cool. I'm going to keep talking about how I'm planning out my Gemini month. And of course, if you want some, and I highly recommend, of course, being an airy month, that you partner up with someone, get to know someone in the Business by Nature group. the worksheets that I send out each month are designed to be worked through together. So everything I talk about today, there's questions, there's Google Sheets that you can fill out, but it's so much more useful when you're throwing the ideas around with someone else. You get so many more ideas if you see what someone else is doing and vice versa. So all you have to do is add your name to the list in the Business by Nature directory and find someone, and you might want to choose by their creator type. You might want to find a whirlwind, they might be a bit popular this month. And have a chat, make a time to meet with them on Zoom or in person if you can. Oops, I forgot to change initiation. Whoopsie. Plan your communication cycle, this is supposed to say. And there's no retrogrades, there's no eclipses, but thank God, because there's enough going on in the astrology of our galaxy right now. So if you're not feeling it, then have you got a pulse? Just make sure you check your pulse. Are you alive? Are you alive? Or have you been in tears and laughter and God knows what every day for who knows how long? So this is a build up now, I will mention though. There's an eclipse season coming in August. So don't get too complacent and have a rest, because I will be preparing for the boom shakalaka that's coming in the second half of this year. Okay, we are building up towards the full moon in Sagittarius on Tuesday. Yay. So Tuesday is a big one, and I'm actually going to be launching my buzz campaign on that day. Actually, it might be Wednesday. It'll be around the full moon energy anyway. So you might want to consider that. You've got a few days to prepare, but make the most of that high energy around the full moon. If you're talking about buzz, Sagittarius meaning purpose, meaning seeking the truth, all of that. So whatever you launch around your buzz strategy, make it meaningful. Speak to the Sages. So my intention for this month is to increase engagement and understanding of the sacred business way. What is sacred business really about? How is it different? How is sacred business an alternative to traditional business teachings? So that's what I want to build my buzz around. It's not fully formulated yet, but you'll find out in days what it's about. Actions. So that's the birthday giveaway. So the buzz strategy that I'm lucky that Sacred Business has its birthday in Gemini, because that's the buzz month. So I usually launch some kind of giveaway. I'm also going to learn about crypto for business, meaning that I want to start to formally accept cryptocurrency payments as a form of payment. So that's part of my research, part of my roots. I'm in the roots phase. So I'm growing my roots. I'm doing my research around that. So that's one example. Fun. Complete the GDPR checklist. Does everyone know about the GDPR? What the fuck is that acronym you're saying? Okay. The General Data Protection Regulation. It is a global regulation that has, I think it's effective as of it's this month sometime, very soon.
Today, Nat, it's today.
Is it today?
25th of May, today.
Oh my God. So I better do my checklist soon. So there's a whole heap of new rules around collecting data for your customers. So basically it's a security measure to allay people's fears about how their data will be used. So if you're a business, you're collecting data about customers. Well, I sure hope you are, because how on else do you know what is going on? But yes, the data that you collect about your consumers needs to be, is now being regulated in a new way. So check that out. Just Google GDPR and you will find heaps on it. So the Sacred Business Immersion, the Natural Creators Immersion, is coming up in October, and it is my first ever immersion. So I've run workshops before, but not residential ones. So, and especially of this nature. So there's a particular experience I'm wanting to create with this immersion. And therefore I want to learn from someone who's done it before. So I'm getting mentoring in that. So that's another aspect of research. I'm picking someone else's brains about this. Same with the GDPR. If you're like, oh my God, I can't do acronyms. Oh my God, data is not a word I use. So talk to someone who thinks like that. Use someone in your network who's got it down, who gets into that stuff. Same with cryptocurrency. It's a foreign language. Talk to someone who understands that language. So yes, these are the 3 areas of research I'm doing this month, as well as running my Buzz giveaway, and the immersion bookings will open this month as well. So that's coming. So you might want to, when you're doing your Buzz, you might want to think, okay, so of course there's a purpose or a message behind it, but also what's the call to action? You know, are you actually selling something that people might benefit from? People who've been caught up in your storm, who are like, this is awesome. This is so me. I so get this message. Well, don't just let them fall to the ground with a thud when it's over. Give them a safe landing. Give them a mattress or, you know, a bed of leaves or roses to fall on. And that may be in the form of, you know, an offering that can support them in taking the next step. So it's okay to sell something on the back end of your Buzz. And in fact, people usually create Buzz around a particular product or service. So you can totally do that, but it doesn't have to be that. So that's me. Anyone want to share or have questions about their Gemini month ahead? Cherie, as I am immobile, but still with roots, yes, I'm glad you have your legs. I am more available to partner if anyone needs a broken limb partner with lots of resilience. We need to sell weeds. I think that was a different statement. Cherie is an amazing partner. So she will get snapped up quickly. Cherie is I don't know what you call yourself now, Cherie, because I know your business has evolved a lot, but you might just want to put in the chat what your current title is that you're calling it, or nature of your work. But Jillian wants you already, so there you go. Jillian's a soil creator, so she's like, yep, that speaks my language, I'm there. Did someone say roots? Yes, Jillian's right there. Okay, Cherie, heart-centered separation coach. Beautiful, I love that term. And yes, Jillian does love the broken ones. She works well with composts. That's one of her specialties, so. Okay. Great. Any other questions, comments? You can unmute yourself if you want to chat to me. No? Is your brain full of ideas? That's the idea. Mel, I can't wait to promote you during my promotional interview. Oh, aren't you sweet? You've already promoted me so much, Mel. Dill, were you going to say something? Who? Priscilla. Priscilla's unmuted.
Oh, Asaya wants to speak.
Yeah.
Use your words, Asaya.
Yeah. I realised I'm muted. I forgot I was unmuted. Yeah. Hey, Natalie, could you talk a little bit about the yearly cycles of business?
Yep.
Just because I feel like, anyway, I won't go into a lot of detail, but just, I feel that would be good to hear.
Well, let's make this an interaction because that's a very broad question, but I'll go back a little bit to this slide. This one. So when I think about annual cycles for a business, I think about, okay, so generally speaking, a business will spend 3 years in each phase. I use that as a guide.
Okay.
That is not a hard and fast rule.
Mm.
So you might sense that your business moves on to the next phase quicker, but we're all working within these annual cycles, and that really is the first year of each stage. You're really clunky in the first year of each stage. So in the seed stage, you're like, oh, okay, what the hell is my business? And it's really new. You're really just getting to understand what the seed stage is about. Second year of that stage, you've got a hold of it and you're really getting it. That's where the grunt happens. That's where the substance of that second year takes, or that stage takes form. Then the third year, you're kind of in transition to the next stage. So that's tying up loose ends. It's also preparing for the next stage to come. So it's like a blurry sort of line between stages in those years.
So you're saying 3 years in the seed stage?
Yeah, so you spend 3 years in each stage.
Okay.
Does your creator type influence how you might transition through those stages?
Hang on, someone's got some background noise. Who is it?
I'm listening to an interview.
Okay, so yes, your creator type does influence how you move through each stage. So you have 2 primary creator types, which are the types that are strongest in your body. So they're the most prominent, they're the most natural types for you to embody and create by. So, of course, we have all types within us, but they're the most prominent ones. Now, if your type, so I'll use me for an example. So lava sits in the seed stage. So my business is very much about birthing other businesses. That's where my expertise really shine. And defining the identity of a new business, or redefining. So if a business has existed for some time and it's going through a transition, major transition, identity change, then that's when people tend to come to me as well. So yes, that's when that stage is really natural for me to work in the seed stage. The other type that I have in me is lightning, which is in the leave stage. So that's strategy. That's why I teach the creator types as a strategy. It's a system that people can work with. So my business, again, is designed around that. So they're the 2 areas that I'm strongest in, leaves and seed stages. So everyone I've noticed has this. The other stages, you'll find that you need more support in, because you don't have that intrinsic in you, that intrinsic nature to create that stage. So that's a really ideal way of identifying when you need support. Back to Asaya's question though. Sorry, Jill, did that help? Yes, okay. Back to Asaya's question around the annual cycles. So yes, roughly 3 years for each stage, which means this is a 12-year cycle. 12 years to go through all of this. But you'll sense, as you get an idea or a feeling for what each stage feels like, how it manifests in your business, the functions of each stage, you'll see and feel very clearly, okay, I'm moving now, I'm transitioning. And I'll also say that people tend to need business support, especially in the transition points.
Yeah, I can feel that in the sense, even last year, I started to feel the transition from seed to root.
Yep.
Roots. And I knew and it feels like I've kind of been pushed to the edge of, like in that space is almost like this unknown section.
Yeah.
And it's like, even going through the whole process now that we went through, it's like I hear it and I'm writing notes, but there's no sense of, I have no idea. You know what I mean? Like there's no kind of.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's good. That's the confirmation.
Yeah. So when you are in transition from one stage to the next, it is like stepping off a cliff. That's, because you're letting go of that previous stage and you haven't grasped the new one yet.
Yeah.
So yes, I can relate to that, and it is a really good time to get support or just to be with that transition too. What will come in at the right time, but I certainly wouldn't recommend going through all the transitions with no support.
Yeah. Cool.
Great.
Can I also touch on what Jill said about the creator type being, I was hearing that question around creator type influences how we do things in each stage as well, and being soil, for me, it's very slow. So even the seed, all of these stages feels like they're weirdly stretched longer than the 3 years, you know. So I'm kind of, yeah, like to me, it was just like I feel like there's maybe even a little bit, even though it's, and maybe some phases are going to be shorter because it's easier or I've got support or something. But I was just sort of curious when Jill talked about the creator type being an influencer, then it hit home just how slow my process is. I mean, I've known it for a while, but it was good to hear it again. And, you know, if everyone's not really sure of their creative type, it'll give an indication of how things can flow for you, you know. And trees are slower as well. So
that's, yeah, all earth signs tend to be slower, and that's a really good point actually, because your creator types do add a certain flavor to how you create with the whole cycle. So what you might notice as a soil type is you'll still go through these transitions around that 3-year mark, but there may not be as much evidence above the ground of what's happening of that change as there would for another type that lives above the ground. So there's a lot more happening above the ground for some types, like sun or snow or lightning, tree even, whereas soil, it's all below the ground. And they are the stabilizers. So they are here in terms of their role within society. They are here to create that solid foundation for other things to grow above the surface. So it really raises the question of, well, what are the success indicators for each of the types? Because they're going to look different. Yeah. Jill.
So I resonate with that, being a soil type. So for me, when my roots were growing, I felt actually really quite comfortable because I was in control of it. And as soon as my tree got nurtured by other people, and it got a little out of fucking control, let me tell you, it was just like, it was growing exponentially, but there was no real sense of it was mine. And I think that's why I've had to prune back on my branches, because other people were nurturing my tree and I didn't really have a focus for it.
Wow, that's a pretty amazing awareness.
Only while Priscilla was talking and I'm going,
Yeah, that really hits home deeply for me too, Jill. Other people come in and want me to do things. I'm going, hang on a tick. The support just whipped up. So I go to a freak out about moving too fast. So it's interesting bringing myself back in and settling it all back down again, so I don't feel that we're out of that space.
The benefit for it though, for me, was it made me branch out and see possibilities that I would never have engaged in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've got to choose those partners more wisely though, because the energy of some other people is far more almost whirlwindy and it's just intense, and it just takes me out, and I just have to stop and go, nah, not yet. It's coming, but just not just yet, you know. I'm not solid enough, but yeah, so. Yeah.
And this is just a brilliant example of how important it is to really cater to the person that you're working with, whether it's a client or a colleague, or, you know, it's your mentor or coach. Like, they need to understand the nature of how you work and adapt according to that, because otherwise it can be quite a disempowering process and you can get disillusioned about, well, I didn't do this and I didn't do that. That's because that's not how you're designed to create. So it's meant to be a very empowering process, and it's meant to be something where you actually feel your own ability and your nature of creating, not anyone else's.
I've had a really big aha just at the moment, because I had an experience yesterday that had left me feeling pretty upset. And listening to all of this and realizing when you said the second year you start to get a handle on it, and I'd felt like I'd really just stepped into my power of owning the newest version of my business, and had felt a huge amount of like, wowee, I did it, and I did it just exactly how I'd like to do it. And then got feedback that that basically I share too much, I'm too generous, it wasn't, blah, blah, blah. And so I felt really quite kind of gutted, because I'd felt really like it was absolutely who I am. And in terms of looking at, so I'm seeing myself in my business now at the seed level. So I feel like what happened in that feedback was I got damned. If I'm a river, it's like I felt really in my flow. And when I've spoken to some people yesterday who do work with me, when I gave them the feedback that I'd received, they said, yeah, but I love that about you. That's actually why I work with you. So the feedback was like, you shouldn't be you, right? And then my people who work with me were all like, no, but that's actually what I like about you. So it's almost like the feedback then damned me as a river. If I am a river, I think I'm a river, damned me. And all of a sudden I felt like my flow stopped. So I was like, kind of stuff, because it was that hit. And I think that sometimes for me is the greatest challenge. Like we were just saying, if people don't understand your creator types, they don't always understand, they're projecting how they do things, and then they don't actually really give validation or respect to your own style. So yeah, I mean, I kind of still feel like I actually want to cry more now. Yesterday I was angry. Today I feel like I want to cry, because I just feel like I just got validated in a whole lot of way. Anyway, thank you, Nat. They have no idea how much that will just help me like be able to move past it, and understanding the why it hurt, like what it, like not hurt in a sucky way, but hurt as a like, I didn't feel like I got sore the way that it was. So, and I'm a pretty harsh critic on myself, so I felt comfortable that I finally did it. It was kind of like, I felt like it was me.
I love how you've got a cold and you were damned.
Locked. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Leonie. And you've just touched on one of the, at the most basic level, knowing your nature in this way helps you to love yourself the way you are, the way you were designed, not the way you've been told to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Thank you, Nat. That's the thing that I've learned so much understanding my soil type, is realizing how slow things need to be for me. And when people do whip me up, I actually am learning to speak to them, saying, actually, I need things to be a lot slower. So if you keep at this rate, I actually can't keep up with you. And it's not wrong where you're at, but I can't do that. And can you meet me somewhere in the middle or find a better way? And I'm learning to find that language that helps express to people that I do things differently to them, and that we're both perfect, but we've got to find a way to work together, which has become really important. So it's knowing this slowness and appreciating this slowness and loving this slowness is it's making it so much easier to connect with everybody else. It's just all coming together really well. So huge.
That's so good. Yeah, that's awesome. And all of you have helped to highlight that the nature of the growth cycle is by your nature. And so a soil moving from one stage to the next is not going to be as dramatic as one of the dramatic types. So it is at the ground level, and it's incremental. But I will say you're still moving from stage to stage, I feel, around that 3-year mark. It just doesn't look as dramatic. And what I'll also say is that I've seen many people stall at the transition points, where they're not in the previous stage and they're not going into the next stage. They've plateaued because they don't have the understanding of how to move into the next stage. They don't have someone holding their hand, showing them the ropes. So they can actually stall there for years. And these are the people whose business is chugging along but it's not growing. So if that's you, make sure you reach out for support from someone who can take you through that stage and honor your nature at the same time. Okay. Wow, what a rich discussion. Thank you. Cherie
wants to speak.
Oh, Cherie wants to speak? Or are you going? Couldn't tell.
I'm sorry, I only have one hand to wave, so I can't wave the other one and to be like visual. But there's metaphor going on here because I've broken my elbow like 3-4 days ago.
Wow.
And so becoming disjointed in the physical body and also in business is such a huge metaphor. It's like sometimes we have to start over again, and that breaking of the joint is like, okay, like I'm slow. I'm even slower than I was before because now I have to make the bone heal, allow the bone to heal because I can't move my arm. I'm limbless.
Yeah.
So being slow and going at the growth stage that we're all at is, well, I'm perfect representative of this in our workshop because I was trying to go too fast, do too much, have so many ideas, plant too many seeds, and it's like I lost my limb. I'm lucky I didn't lose my I didn't break my leg. That I broke my leg too. Anyway, I have three. I'm a three-legged table. So our business is three-legged tables. but you know what?
A three-legged table still stands.
Oh God! I broke my left elbow. So like that's a disjointed metaphor. If ever I can represent that for our group, we become disjointed, and it's about starting over again. That's all I wanted to say. And you have to add humor to it too, because yeah, try to put a bra on with no two hands.
Lucky we're just from here up, hey Cherie.
Well, no, I got somebody to help me, but all right, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, and that you've just highlighted that when we move beyond our bodies, beyond our nature, that's when things like that happen. So yes, you're now fully in your body, Cherie. Congratulations.
I am, and you know, we're magical. We're magical bodies. Like when you know how the bone heals, we are magical.
Yeah, that's right. You're going through a magical healing process now. Yeah.
We all are. We all are.
We all are. Yeah. What a beautiful note to finish on. Thank you all so much for your engaging questions and your curiosity. Wow.
Love that. It's so cool. Thank you, Nat, as always.
Thank you all very much, and keep an eye on your inbox tomorrow, and I will see you next time. Lots of love. Mwah.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.